An adopted girly here to add her little 2 cents to this entire conversation about a closed adoption. So let's start with the rapid fire details that are valid and make me qualified to share my opinion. So I am the result of a closed adoption. I actually do not have any specific information on my biological mother. Coincidentally for me, I actually know one of my biological sisters. Both she and I were both adopted at the same time. So this adoption was the result of me being born. She left both of us in the hospital. And she did also have a older daughter and a older son. Now the older son was like a year older than my sister, and my sister is actually a year older than me. Let me give you a little bit of context into the biological makeup of my sister, that my biological sister that I actually am in connection with. We actually have the same mother and father. The details that we have is that that particular father was a married man, is a married man. I don't know if he still exists. And so he was aware of my sister, who was 1 year older than me. He was apparently not aware of me. The other piece of information that could or could not be important here is that my biological mother did, in fact, use some kind of illegal substance while she was pregnant, but I think this was prior to her knowing. However, I did actually have to go through withdrawal as a newborn, so just also keep that in mind. So, a closed adoption, and the conversation is it's a violation of the contractual obligations of a closed adoption to come looking for the person that intentionally decided to get rid of you and erase the connection between the two of you. So I'm going to scream the obvious reasons why sometimes people do these things. You know, there are health reasons. They may get adopted into a family that is not a pleasant experience, and so they still feel left alone. Or maybe the adopted family that they are connected to, everyone unfortunately passes away. You know, there's just a variety of things. A lot of times, I think the one thing that people don't get about adoption, people who are adopted, I say this all the time, I feel like a stipulation and requirement of adoption should be that you get free counseling for the rest of your life, and it has to be high quality counseling. And I say that because there are so many emotional experiences that you're going to have. There are so many mental experiences that you're going to have in relation to being adopted that you can't have the conversation with other people because a lot of the people around you are not adopted. If I'm in a room of 30 people, most often is 1 in 30. If I'm in a room with 50 people, most often is 1 in 50 that are adopted, or maybe even know somebody closely related that's adopted. I ended up with one friend in my entire life, like friend, like I'm talking about somebody. No, I take that back. No. I ended up with one actual friend. Now, I did earn some like sorors and other connections that way that were adopted, but I'm talking about organically. They're just like people that I establish a relationship with, and then we find out, oh my gosh, I'm also adopted. One friend in my 35 years of life. Now, can I say that I have come in contact with people that are adopted? Yes, I have, but the circumstances are always different. Now, let's get into why a closed adoption can be so sticky that sometimes you get to the point where you are still trying to figure it out. A lot of adopted people, like myself, have detachment issues. So we completely detach ourselves from the people that adopted us, or I should say the family, not like your adopted parents, but like the larger, greater family. Sometimes you completely detach yourself because one thing that happens mentally that you do subconsciously and you don't even think about it, you identify the ways that you do not fit in. You identify the ways that you are different, and you are simply just trying to find your space in this world. Imagine living your entire life and having no clear understanding of the origin of your foundation. That is literally the life that adopted children live every day. Unless you get adopted into your family and you actually know who your biological parents are. Now, for me personally, starting a family has tugged at my heart in a lot of different ways. I think before I graduated from high school, I did want to meet my biological mother, because I just felt like, oh my gosh, that would be like such a pivotal moment. By the time I got to high school, I didn't really care about it. I went back and forth with if it was even necessary. And then, like, by the time I became an adult, my expectation was that I don't know that lady and she doesn't know me. Now, granted, did she grant me the greatest gift, which is life? Absolutely. Thankful, grateful for her. But I also have to realize that I'm an adult now and she's also an adult. And I also have to think about all those factors I told you in the building. She was on drugs. she was dealing with a married man, so she already makes poor decisions. So what if she's an addict, or what if she's still somebody that continues to make poor decisions, and then I invite her into my world, and now she adds a different layer of chaos? Or what if she is one of those biological mothers that are super entitled and doesn't respect the presence of my adopted mom, who has literally been everything for me up until this very second? Absolutely not. And so because those boundaries exist for me, it's easier for me to decide that no, I'm not really interested in chasing her down. However, I do sympathize with the people that yearn to know who their mother is, because that's always going to be a missing piece. And becoming a mother, I understand the gaping hole of just not knowing who that person is that much deeper. It also makes me question other things. Like becoming a mama just makes me question. So as a mama, I understand, like, maybe circumstantially you couldn't afford to keep us, but you had 2 kids already and you got rid of the last 2. So my next question is, did you have any other kids? Because if you did, then how were you able to move forward with those kids? Beyond that, the largest question that I feel like a lot of adopted kids probably feel, you don't want to know me. You're not, like, there's not a tugging at your heart to know where is my child in the world. You're not concerned about the fact that maybe I didn't get adopted by a good family, or maybe I ended up in foster care and nobody cared about me. And so I guess as a mama, it's so easy for me to see that. Now what I will say is, the comments and even that initial video of that young lady pretty much saying it's a violation is so disgusting. And I might be hypersensitive to it because I'm adopted and I was in a closed adoption. But let me also give you another tidbit of information. Closed adoptions are very difficult to get beyond. So when they're closed, you don't get any details. You don't get any information. So anybody that's in a closed adoption that actually finds their biological family, they have put in some major work. My birth certificate shows my adopted mom. It does not show my biological mother. It does show where I was born, but that's literally it. So let's just say I wanted to figure it out. Number one, I would have to go to the vital records at the hospital and see if maybe they have the original. But I think my understanding is that the original remains closed. And so nobody has access to that. So then you have to use like those 23andMe and all those other DNA testing systems. Hope that somebody with your DNA very close, and I'm talking about like mama, daddy, grandmama, granddaddy, aunts, uncles, first cousins, or maybe even siblings, actually submit their DNA for them to be able to be a match. I did 23andMe previously, and everybody that I matched with was like 6%, 17%, 2%, 5%, 1%, 3%. And there were a few people that would like message me, and they were also adopted or whatever, and they were just trying to find their way. So now it makes me feel like, is this a common occurrence in this family that I'm biologically connected to? There are just so many questions that you have. And if I had the time, I could sit here and tell you the spiral of bang that could occur with me just asking questions. Or let's just say you in a chat GPT search and you just type in one question and then there's another question and another question. I could go all day. So what I will encourage you all to do is not necessarily negate the fact that, oh, it's a closed adoption, that's it, it's a violation, but also consider all the parts of this, because I'm able to see it from every angle and understand that it was probably a difficult decision for you, and maybe it's not a decision that you want to relive, and I understand maybe that's why you don't want to be confronted with this again. But respect everybody's position in this, because it's very difficult to live this life every day. And if you're not adopted, and if you're not a result of a closed adoption, then you don't understand.